All right, welcome again. So in this tutorial, I'm going to show us how to fetch an API. Okay, so from the previous lesson, we actually created this, how to do routing, kind of static routing. Okay, and then can get back to my home page and yeah, how to route using layouts and how you can create a folder with page dodges. So if you've not seen it, you can always check it on the playlist. So I'm going to say how we can be able to look through APIs and render data on API. So the API I want us to work with is RESTful API for countries. So all right, so I just want to, let me open it and we can actually see the data. Okay, so you can see the API. So we're going to fetch it, convert it to a JSON file, and we'll be able to look through it. So this contains information about countries. So I'm going to increase. Okay, so you can see this country here, Jordan, which is official name. And then some other things about the country. Independent, you can see there's an independent nation. And I think I'll zoom the page. I want us to see very well. So you can also see the symbol of the country and the name in different languages, depending on whichever one we want. If you want to call the Jordan in French, that is how it is being called. Okay. Royaume, let me say do Jordanie, something like that. Common Jordanie. And then we have a link to, okay, some other things about it too. Okay, you can also see their location on Google Map if you want to get the location on Google Map, and also using OpenStreetMap, you can also see their location. So we can actually infuse this inside the link. You can see the population of the country, okay, and some other things that are called. You can see the flag, their flag with the alternative name of the flag. Okay, so can actually use this alternative name to get more information about Jordan, and you can see the PNG. Okay, so if I click on it, it should actually take me to the flag of the country. Okay, so yeah, so the same thing applies to some other nations too. So start of week, their week starts on Sunday, and I have another country after that. So another object containing information about another country. And here we have Northern Marina Islands. So, and then you can also see the languages they speak. Okay, so, and we have information about the continent they belong. I can also have information about the continent they belong to. If I'm being, okay, so you can see the continent Oceania. Okay, so I'm seeing the flag and so on and so forth. So we now get to another country, Serbia, and everything, every information about them and all that. So we'll be looking at this, right? So yeah, so navigating back to our app, I'm going to create a folder. I've created a folder called countries, and inside it, I'm going to create a file called countries, a component countries.jss. So I'm going to simply do RFC. Okay, so again, as usual, we delete this. So I'm not going to use an app component because I want these countries to, I want to log it out on my layout, just the thing I want us to see now. So I'm going to move straight to the layout, and for now, let me comment out this navband, the children, and I'm going to import countries. So I have it here. So I've imported it. So the file is going to be here. So we also use this file to look at static and dynamic rendering of data. But first of all, let's fetch the data. So now if I go back to my, yes, can actually see that it's only showing me countries here. So that is fine. Okay. So that is just the only thing I have there. So let me go back to the countries and try to fetch the data. So if I want to fetch a data, I have to use an asynchronous function that can actually help me to do that. So I have to fetch the data using an asynchronous function. So to create an asynchronous function, I will start by using async function, synchronous function. Okay, so and I would give it a name. You can say countries, country, or flag nations. I don't want to call it countries anymore, so I can simply give it another name, flag nations. Or better still, let me call it nations. Nations. Okay. So I'm going to fetch asynchronous function. That's what I will use to fetch the data. So I can declare a variable, say const response to be equal to fetch. So I'm going to fetch that data. So I just navigate to where the URL data is and just copy this URL here. So copying the URL, I can paste it in here. So because what I'm using is an asynchronous function, I'm going to include an await here. So this is how promises work. All right. So whenever you're using an asynchronous function, it's always good that you include a data. Okay. So I can actually say something like const data. So for me to harvest the data to be equal to, I'll still use await response.json. Response.json. Open and close parentheses. And this entire function will have to give out data. So what is returning is the data. So my function will return the data. So pretty much using asynchronous function, and I'm going to return the data. So I have to include an async here because I want to call on this function that I have here. So this has to be a asynchronous function too. So I can simply declare my variable again and say const data to be equal to await. The name of my function is nations, await nations. Okay. So mind you, these nations return data. So it is right for me to say that this is going to give me data at the end of the day. Okay. So just to verify that my data is actually working well, I'm going to go back to the API. Let's say what I want to log out is this official name here. This JSON API is an array API. Okay, so it's not like an object. So I can simply say, and the name now is data. So is this entire thing that I have here? This entire thing now is what I have given the name data. So the first one, you already know how data works. Okay, the first member of a data can be said to fall on index 0. Okay, so if I say index 0, which means index 0 is an object. So index 0 dot name will actually lead me to this very object here. So I can say, if I want to get it, I can say index 0 data 0, because that is the name now, data 0 of name of official or of common, whichever one. Okay, so I can just simply come in here and put that. Okay, I can just put in curly brackets and say data 0. Okay, dot name dot official. You can say dot name dot official. Okay, so I'm expecting that to write this name on my app now. So fine, we have got it. So you can actually see that this is the name of the, so it has fetched this very data here. Okay, but this is not how I'm going to do it to get all the countries that I have there, right? So it will be very nice for me to implement map here, and I tell the map what I want my map to do. Okay, so I can actually go ahead and say const, I can call it const data list, or country lists. Can say country or countries, const countries to be equal to data dot map. Okay, data dot map. So I'm going to map the data, and I will use data to map. Okay, so when you are mapping through an array, you are looping through the whole array at the same time. So I can call each one of them country. Okay, so what do I want to do to each to the country? So I have to put a curly bracket. So maybe I want them to be inside the section, so I can actually type section. Okay, so I can actually type a section, and what do I want to do? I want to get the name, and the name is going to be in H2. Okay, so and then what will they now? So since each of them is now country, so I can simply say country dot name. Okay, each object now is country. Okay, each object now is country. So country dot name dot official. So that is what I'm going to call it. Country dot name dot official. Country dot name dot official. Okay, country.name.official. And if I want more information, I can also refer to more information. So the reason why this thing is giving me this red here is because it's expecting me to pass in a key. Okay, when we do something like search or trying to delete a data, we can actually see the importance of an ID. So I can give it a key. I will find a data there that I can use as key. So I want to use CCA3 as my key. Okay, so that means country.cca3 will now be my key. Okay, country.cca3 is now my key. Okay, so this whole thing I've saved them as country. So I can actually come inside here, and instead of now saying official, I will say log out countries. So this will just be countries. Okay, so this will now be countries. Okay, so So that is it. Okay, so if I go back here and check my data now, I will actually see that it has given me a list of all the countries. That is quite awesome. Remember, these styles they are coming from my Tailwind CSS, which I created styles for them. So you can actually see that the entire countries has been looked out here, has been mapped out here. Okay, so we can make this to look much better. We can make it to look much better by trying to, okay, I can actually do something like class and say class name, and I make them to be a grid, and I can say grid code 3, that kind of thing. Okay, so grid row to be because I don't know how many rows that I have, so I have to use repeat. I will just hard code it here and say repeat um repeat parenthesis can say 200 pixel. So grid row repeat 200 pixels. So let me actually see how this thing looks. Okay, so some of the styles I've written earlier that are actually encroaching on this data, so I have to go and remove some of those styles. I have to come back to my global CSS and comment out this, so my page can actually look basically like this now. Okay, so I can go back and come back here and write my stuff the way I want it. So I can remove because I don't know how many rows I have anyway. So I don't know how many rows that I have, and I can give it a gap. I can give a gap of probably 3. So the text can have spacing among them. Okay. So I can come inside here and still give it a height of about, okay, I need to put class h maybe 200 pixel. Okay, so I want the height to be 200 pixel. Right. Okay, 200 pixel is appearing too much, so maybe I say 150 pixel. 150 pixel, and we'll just come to the next line, and I want it to be flex, and I want flex to be on a column because I'll add other things there. So flex co, and I want it to justify center, item center, item center, and justify center. Justify center. Item center, justify center. So that will take basically everything in the center. So I can give it a background color. PG color of amber. So I can simply say amber, and then I will see how it looks there. You can see. And I can round the edges by saying rounded, rounded, rounded Excel, rounded Excel. Okay, and rounded Excel, and give it some padding of say 3, so that the text will not just go and appear at the end. So I can actually see it. So yeah, so I can see all the countries now. I have actually fetched the entire data that I have here. Okay. All right. So that is pretty much easy to implement. Very easy to implement. Very easy. So I can also include, let's include the flag of the countries using image. So I'll use image link. So know that this image, I will import it from next image. So if you're using this kind of image other than IMG works, but image component is highly preferred because of easy loading, and it has a lot of advantages like easy loading, more optimized on the browser. Also, I'll use it. It functions like IMG element. So I'm going to pass it a source, and my source is going to be country dot I'm going to go back to the API to see how I will get that flag. So the flag is country dot flag. Okay, country dot flag dot png. So I can say, is it flag or flags? Flags. Country dot flags dot png, because I want to use the png. Okay, and if I'm using this image component, is expecting me to provide the width and the height. So if I save, just to let us know that if I go back to my page, I will actually see that it's saying me it's returned an error. So it expects me to use the width and the height. Okay, so the width and the height is compulsory for it. So I can say width. Okay, so probably I give it a width of 100 and a height of 100. So a height of 100. I can also provide alternative name, auth. Okay, remember my auth will now also go to country dot flags dot auth. Okay, so this should be enough for the image to be for the images to be rendered. Okay. Okay, fine. Is expecting one more thing, that I should be able to render. I should be able to configure this host name in our next.config.js. Okay, so and once I do that, it's going to, let's just get how do we actually do that. So it's because I'm using remote images, so it's expecting me to next image. Let's see how we can configure next image optimization, next image configuration. So it's just a very easy step, image optimization. So next image, let me just get it. Okay, so for using remote images, so I can simply copy this. and change whatever I have there. That is it for remote images. So this next.config.js. So I'm going to navigate to next.config.js, and then I will include that, simply paste it. So I will allow this to be anything at all. Okay, so this is just to provide phishing, so prevents phishing. So I'm going to go back to my API, and I will get the endpoint. I'll get the endpoint for that flag. So this is the endpoint. Okay, flag. See there. So this is it. Okay, so you can already see that it was telling me, it was showing me that here. So this endpoint is expecting me to, that is the host name I need to include. I need to include there. So I can simply change that as the host name. Okay. So that deals with it, right? That deals with it. So normally when you do this, it kind of stops your browser for the meantime, and you have to restart your browser. Okay, but let me check if um, so yeah. Okay, so normally this is going to, I have to just restart my local server again, and I've been able to do that. And yeah, so let's see how it has rendered. You can see it has rendered the images with the country, everything. So I have them showing here. So let's just verify a few things that's happened there. Let's right click and inspect this to see what really happened. So you can see that on each section, you can see the alternative name is showing here. Okay, flag of Jordan, blah blah blah. And then also looking out for the ID, which we included. So you can also see all those things. Yeah. So where is the ID? Looking out for it. I can't really see it, sure. But I can see the image. IMG is actually loading lazy. That is one good thing with it. That's lazy loading. Okay. One good advantage of lazy loading is your images don't need to finish loading before the pages will be loaded. Okay. And the images are only loaded when you are on the viewport. So if you are not on the viewports, like, why should I load something that I'm not yet seeing? Okay. So until when I scroll to the viewport, that's when the image is loaded. So that is what that lazy loading even means. Okay. So it's very important to get that. So I can make this a little responsive by including, can say for, where did I do that again? Okay, fine. So this, I can limit this to medium screen. I can just say MD. Yeah, and then can say grid core to be 1. So when I say grid core 1, and it means on a small screen, I'm going to have my, it's only on a small, when I'm on a small screen, and my this thing will just be showing there. So let me just reduce this. So yeah, because my screen was zoomed anyway. So if I minimize my screen, you can see everything is being responsive. So when I try to maximize my screen beyond that, and then I will now have it so MD. So you can see. Okay, so that is making it to be a bit. So that is fine. I can bring in more data here. Let's look at the API and see which other data can we actually bring in from here. Okay, probably we should include a link to map. Okay, can include a link to the map. On Google Map, you can also include a link. So it is called Google Maps. So you can simply say, copy this. I can just include that as a link. So that means I can come inside here, and after the official name, can include the link elements. I have to import it too. Okay. So, and can simply say map, can say view Google Map or Google Map, Google Map. Okay. So that is it. So the href we actually go to country dot I kind of forgotten it again. Country dot map dot Google Map. Okay, country dot maps dot okay, countries dot maps dot that. So, and I would like it to open on a new tab when it is clicked on. So I have to target it blank. Remember, if you still remember your basic HTML, you can simply say target blank. Okay, so that will be a link. Okay, and that is fine. So probably when I hover on it, I want it to give a text like, so I can give it a title on hover. So that title should render dynamically to country dot country dot name dot common. I can say common. I can use common. Okay, so I can actually use backtick here, and I say view $sign backtick. Okay, on Google Map on Google Map. Okay, let's just see how this work. Um, it appears as if something is an error. It doesn't understand the command that I wrote somewhere. There's an error, so I need to check the API to be sure that Google Maps. So let me just confirm that country.name.common is the name that I want to use. Okay, so let me check my I may have to just remove this. I will find a way to put it now still. View. Okay, when I even remove it, I just want to include country.name.common. Okay, let me just leave it like that. And so you can see. So when I hover on it, will tell me Northern Marina Island. So the name of the country is showing. So Serbia, Bermuda. You can see when I hover on it, it is telling me the name of the country. Okay, so it's actually working. So Google Maps. So I can actually make this text to, like, whenever it's hovered on, I want it to give it an underline. So I can give a class name and over can say underline, 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 or I can give it a border button, border on the bottom. Okay, border B, border B, maybe border B2, and color should be border B blue. Okay, border B blue. Can use this light blue. Okay, so by default that goes to be solid. So you can actually see. Okay, if you want it to have some form of transition, you can also include a transition. Okay, so I just put that there. So, but this entire text, I can actually make them. So when I click on it, you can see it's taking me on another page, and it will open that country on Google Map. You can see it has taken me to Libya on Google Map. So that is fine. So this is just an easy way that you can walk through on how to fetch API, include more information. So we actually look at what if I want to click on this and I'll be able to see more information. Okay, more information, or and then that is rendering the data dynamically. We see that in the next class. But before we move to that, let's say we want to filter this by just countries that are in Africa. I want to filter it by countries in Africa. So I'm going to make a little adjustment on I'm going to create a map on filter. Okay. So my filter can say const Africa, can say const Africa to be equal to data dot filter country, where um um okay, where let me look at the API and see how the continents appear. Okay, so continents continent is as if let me see very well. I'm not seeing it. A lot of things you can do. You can also log out the capital. So, but I'm interested in the continents. Let me see how the continents appear on the API. Okay, so this thing would have been much easier if you have a documentation. So you can see continent is in an array. Okay, continent is in an array. So continent. So I can say countries.continents dot includes Africa. Okay, so I can say country where country dot continents dot includes. If you remember, this array method is also a string method, dot includes Africa, so that will help me to filter. So instead of me now looping through the data, I can decide to loop through Africa. I can decide to loop through Africa. So this will automatically filter this to the countries that are just in Africa. So voila. So you can see it has just filtered it, and I only have countries in Africa showing me here. So okay, so hope this is clear on how you can fetch data using API in Next.js.